Welcome to the first official episode of ONGAKUreviews. Today, a review of Noragami. I am Emily and I will be your reviewer for today. So, let's get started. Noragami is a supernatural shonen anime based on the manga of the same name that aired between January 6th through March 23rd, 2014. Noragami basically revolves around three main characters. First we have Yato, a low-level delivery god with no money to his name, who is hoping to become the most adored god in the world. Unfortunately, no one knows who he is. Then we have Hiyori, an average high school girl with an unusual martial arts obsession who gets caught up in Yato's world after they meet unexpectedly.
彼岸の声が聞こえるのか?
Okay, maybe that's not exactly how they meet, but it does take place soon after. Finally, we have Yukine, an angsty teenage boy who just so happens to be Yato's regalia. In Noragami, a regalia is the soul of a person who has died that can be named and utilized by the gods to be used as weapons. The story of Noragami follows these three characters as they battle phantoms, other gods, and their quest to help Hiyori become fully human again after she became a half-phantom from getting hit by a bus. This means that she has a tendency to lose her body when she's not paying attention.
抜けてんぞ、魂。体はあそこに引っかかってる。
And phantoms are, well, they're really bad things. Sort of like demons or leeches that latch onto people and play on their weaknesses until they ultimately drive these people to their deaths. Part of Yato's job as a god is to defeat these phantoms. So throughout the course of the show, various figures from Yato's past crop up, and this sort of detracts attention away from Hiyori's problem. This results in the show having roughly 3 arcs overall. 3 arcs! In 12 episodes! Because of the short runtime of this series, the arcs tend to overlap, which really only adds to the intricateness of this series. The first arc, or rather, the first arc to really resolve, involves Bishamon, an angry war god from Yato's past who is ultimately trying to kill him. The second arc, however, is more character-driven, revolving around Yukine, and that ultimately resolves before the final arc with the final boss from Yato's past comes in. So the beauty of the final arc is that it resolves the beginning of the series and Hiyori's issues with being a half-phantom. Well, more or less, depending on how you really look at it. So with all of that out of the way, I can finally get to what I really liked about this story, and that was the character development of this series. So for as short as Noragami was, it contained more character development in 12 episodes than Attack on Titan and Sword Art Online combined. Yeah, I went there. But only because it's true. Hiyori and Yato had a far more believable relationship than Asuna and Kirito ever did. But individually, the characters worked as well. One of my favorite things about Hiyori was that she actually acted like a high school student. Usually when you have a character who's a high school student in a supernatural anime such as this, they usually adopt one of a few personas. They are either useless, fan service material, way too serious for their own good, or they magically transform into an action movie star out of nowhere and for no apparent reason. Hiyori is none of these things. Okay, that proves nothing. I said out of nowhere and for no apparent reason. That was taken completely out of context. But my point is, Hiyori behaves as you would expect a high school student to act, which so rarely happens in these animes. She also genuinely cares about Yato and Yukine, and she does everything she can to help them. This quality about her is what draws Yato to her, and her ability to make decisions and influence certain outcomes is what ultimately leads to the final arc. Then we have Yato. Yato's development throughout the story is largely influenced by his relationships with both Hiyori and Yukine. At first, Yato comes off as a selfish idiot, but as the story progresses, it becomes evident that not only does Yato care about Hiyori and Yukine, but that he'll do everything he can to save them. Finally, we have Yukine. Now, it is fair to say that Yukine is my favorite character in this series. That's probably due to the fact that he reminds me of my younger brother. But also, look at how cute he is! Yukine, as I mentioned earlier, is an angsty teenager, but he also got the most development out of all the characters in this series. He even had an entire story arc devoted to the development of his character. What makes Yukine such a great character is the fact that his angst stems from the fact that he died so young. Remember that while regalias can be used as weapons by the gods, they were also once human, and Yukine's character arc depicts him coming to terms with the reality that he can no longer go to school or have a normal life again. As angsty and difficult as Yukine's character is, and as rage-inducing as characters like him usually are, that never really bothered me about him because his character was so believable. As expected, Bones does a fantastic job with the animation, and it remains pretty consistent throughout. Occasionally they do repeat the same sequence a few times, but that doesn't really bother me because it remains visually stunning throughout the rest of the show. The character designs are interesting enough that you won't get any of them mixed up, even if some of the secondary characters look suspiciously like characters we've seen in past animes. But considering the focus of this anime on its main characters, that really isn't a big deal. As for the sound, well, at the time of this review, Noragami does not have an English dub, but it has been licensed by Funimation, so I expect it'll get an English dub within the next year or so. As for the Japanese version, we have Hiroshi Kamiya as Yato, who is known for his roles as Izaya Orihara from Durarara, and Levi from Attack on Titan. For Yukine, we have Yuki Kaji, who is known for his roles as Shu from Guilty Crown, and Eren from Attack on Titan. Yes, we have 2 Attack on Titan vets in this anime. So it appears that Japan has the same problem America has in reusing their voice actors over and over and over again for the same role again. But despite all that, they both do a fantastic job in their respective roles, just like they did in Attack on Titan. Finally, we have Maya Uchida. She's far less known than the other 2, with very few respectable roles to her name, but nevertheless I enjoyed her portrayal of Hiyori. Now the music in Noragami certainly doesn't fall flat, with the opening song being one of my favorite new J-rock songs, and there's no English at all. It's an amazing revelation. Background music also lives up, and it certainly does a great job of capturing the mood, and I can honestly say I haven't heard much else like it. So what I failed to mention earlier is that Noragami is purely Japanese. When I say that, I mean that there is no evidence of a Western influence in this anime, and this is coming from a production company that is known for targeting a Western audience. I mean between Fullmetal Alchemist and now most recently Space Dandy, which became the first ever anime to air in the US before it aired in Japan, and on top of it, it was airing at the same time as Noragami. It's hard to believe the show actually came from Studio Bones. It's just refreshing to see an anime that's actually Japanese, influenced by Japanese mythology, with no bullshit surrounding it. There's no filler, and well, I won't say there's no fan service, but there's very little fan service. Noragami is simple and interesting and purely Japanese without being so Japanese. For instance, there aren't any of the usual character archetypes that we're used to. There's no tsunderes, no lollies, no Rei Ayanami clones. There are just the characters that were made for this series and this story, and if they were replaced with the usual character archetypes, then Noragami wouldn't be nearly as good, because the entire show was fueled by its characters. All that's left is my final recommendation, so would I recommend this anime? Yes. Noragami receives an above average 8.78 out of 10, and I would recommend it to anyone who enjoys supernatural elements, Japanese mythology, or anyone who just wants to see really good character development. So with that being said, Noragami is available for streaming from Funimation's website, the link for which I have provided in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll try to get more videos out as soon as possible. If you want to find me elsewhere, you can find me on Hummingbird. I am Stormborn2013. There you can follow and recommend anime to me to review and watch. If you have any recommendations about how to improve my future videos, please feel free to say so in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, thanks for watching.
焼きたてを伸ばしてる塞いだ僕のいる場所は
And that's it, I'm done!